Amazon KDP is more competitive than ever, yet new low-content publishers who do things the right way still have the opportunity to make hundreds or even thousands of dollars every month. Today, I'll show you 5 key things that successful low-content publishers do to get and stay ahead, along with some really great examples, so that you can experience success with your low-content books in the coming year and beyond. I'll also share the one thing that almost no one does that dramatically increased my royalties, resulting in thousands of extra dollars a month. So this is the first video in a series I'm doing all about low-content publishing and how you can experience low-content publishing success in the coming year. Things are changing, but they're changing for the better in my opinion, and I just want to make sure that you've got everything you need to succeed. Now, the first thing you absolutely have to do is you have to start thinking medium content rather than low content. Now, it used to be possible to make money just publishing things like plain notebooks, basic line journals, graph paper, even just completely blank books. Those days are long gone. These are very low value books and they are super easy to create. And because of that, there are millions upon millions upon millions of these books on Amazon now, making it basically impossible to compete. Now, because most people just simply aren't willing to put in the time or the effort to create high value books, those who are willing are going to be the ones that succeed. So you want to consider how you can start creating less easily replicable books that require a little bit more forethought, a little bit more effort, and contain a lot more value. Now, a really great example of this is this best-selling self-love workbook for women. Now, this could have just been a fairly basic journal for women to record their thoughts and their feelings. Instead, this author gave this book a concept. The concept is self-love, and it's all about releasing self-doubt, building self-compassion, and embracing who you are. And if we scroll down to the A+ content, you can see this isn't just a bunch of lines with a few prompts sprinkled in here. There's some really thoughtful written activities that encourage deep self-reflection. Now, you can tell by the over 21,000 positive reviews that this journal really struck a chord with a lot of women. It's got a bestsellers ranking of under 3,000, means this thing is selling like absolute hotcakes. Now, did this journal require a lot of extra effort to put together? Absolutely, but look at how well it's paying off. Now remember, no matter what business model you decide to pursue, whether it's this one or something completely different, you're never going to be able to escape the fact that you will be rewarded according to the amount of effort that you're willing to put in. Every single business on earth must focus on delivering the highest value possible it can to its customers if it wants to succeed long term. And a really good place to start with that is to do this next thing. So number 2 is to define your target market. Every successful business on earth does this, because if you can't clearly define who you're selling to and you can't understand the specific problems that you're trying to solve, it's going to be really hard, if not impossible, to sell anything to these people. Remember, when you try to appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to no one. So an example I always like to use is, imagine you are the owner of a French bulldog and you want to get some training for this little guy. So you go online and you see all sorts of dog trainers pop up in Google. And then you see the dog trainer that specializes in training French bulldogs. Which one are you going to go with? You're probably going to choose the French bulldog trainer because you're going to feel like that person's services are tailored exactly for you and your dog. And that's really what you want to do with your low content books. When you've clearly defined your market and that person is scrolling through Amazon looking at all of the different choices, you want them to stop on your book and think, this book was created just for me. So you can create something called an ideal customer avatar. And basically, this is just a profile of who that person is. That could include their age, it could include their gender, their values, their interests, likes, dislikes, problems, all of those things. When you've got an ideal customer avatar, you can then use that profile to inform all of your decisions, like the colors you're going to use, the style you're going to use, the type of font, the type of content that you include. And this really is going to dramatically increase your sales. So I found an example of a self-publisher who has created a very clear ideal customer avatar, and this is allowing them to stand out in the really, really competitive space of adult coloring books. So rather than just focusing in on adults. They've drilled down a little bit deeper, and they've created this coloring book that caters to adults with dementia. So they've included some affirmations here. They're focusing on the relaxation aspect. They've made it with large print so that older people can read it. And again, this is just a really simple tweak, but just dialing it in that one step further to focus on a very specific target market has really helped this book stand out, and it's ranked number 34,000 in books. So this book is selling really well, very regularly. Now, once you've defined who it is that you want to make low content books for, now it's time for number 3, which is to build a brand. People really want to buy products and services from brands that they know and trust. Now, your ultimate goal is to start building some brand recognition on Amazon, and the way for you to do that is to just create one high-value book after another in a fairly narrow niche. So there's a brand I found on Amazon that's doing a fairly good job of this. They're called Cottage Path Press. So they've created an author page on Amazon. They've created a very simple but effective logo. They've got a nice about the author section talking about how they're a US family business that creates quality coloring books for adults and kids, as well as activity books, notebooks, journals, educational books, and more. And when you run down the list here, you can see that there's a pretty cohesive look between most of these books. They're all different, of course, but they do all look like they belong together. So this doesn't have to be anything super fancy. Just having that nice, simple logo, creating an author page, and then sticking within your niche can be enough to start building that brand presence on Amazon. So now you've got a high-value book, you've got a target market, you're well underway creating your brand. What comes next? Well, number 4 is to create a marketing plan. Now, it used to be that you could just publish a book on KDP, and if it was good enough, it was going to sell. That's just not the case anymore. So having a plan for what to do after your book is published is important. Now, in the beginning, when you're just starting out, this is probably going to be very grassroots. Send a link to your book to people in your immediate network who might be a part of your target audience. Ask them if they know anyone that might be in your target audience, and ask them to send the link to that person. Share the link on social media. Ask your friends and family to share a link to your book on their social media accounts. Don't be afraid to do this. I have seen publishers have a lot of success using social media. I just watched someone else's video last week where they were showing how one person's book went viral on TikTok. It was called the Shadow Work Journal. If you decided to go all in on a particular niche, you might want to create content around that niche so that you can share that content on your social media accounts and start building an audience that you can promote your books to. Start building an email list so you can promote future books to them. This is free advertising. Try to leverage other people's audiences. Are there any content creators, like bloggers or YouTubers, that you can reach out to and send a free copy of your book to? Maybe they'd review your book on their blog or their YouTube channel. Or maybe you can offer to do a guest blog post about that topic, or be a guest on someone's YouTube channel and talk about that topic, just so you can get some extra exposure for your book. Get really creative. And of course, when you've got a decent book on your hands and you know it's good because it's made a couple of sales, start using ads so that you can amplify those sales. Now, a really great example that I have of a low content publisher that's leveraging someone else's audiences is actually one of my very own students from my Low Content Profits Academy. There's a YouTuber with a fairly sizable audience who is sharing this person's book on their YouTube channel. And of course, that has resulted in some extra sales. This has been great for my student, and she is now reaching out to other YouTubers who might also want to do the same. Okay, finally, this is the one thing that allowed me to dramatically increase my royalties, allowing me to earn literally thousands of extra dollars every single month. And that is focus on other marketplaces. So Amazon.com, the American store, that is not the only marketplace. The two other big marketplaces are Amazon.co.uk, which is of course the UK market, and Amazon.de, which is the German market. And there's a whole list of other markets. There's Amazon Mexico, Amazon France, Amazon Italy, Amazon Spain, India, Japan, Netherlands, Turkey. There's quite a list here. And if you have any sort of tie to any of these other markets, whether culturally or through the language, Experiment in these markets. These are markets that are growing all the time, and there aren't a ton of people that are really leveraging this opportunity just yet, I don't think. So my own personal story with choosing to focus on Amazon.co.uk is that because I'm from England and I grew up in a British household, I know a lot of British slang. I know the differences in the languages that are nuanced, but they are still there. And so I was able to take advantage of that. So just as an example, at the time I was producing a lot of daily planners. Now in the UK, they generally don't say daily planner, they say diary. So that alone allowed me to target a completely different keyword that a lot of people really weren't using in the US market because people just don't say that. I also created planners with a lot of British slang on the cover, so that was going to really appeal to people in the British market. And then when you publish that book, you can decide what to make your primary marketplace, and I would choose the UK. And now because I was targeting the UK through the language, that really allowed my books to stand out. So what that ended up looking like when I was getting paid my royalties at the end of the month was that 80% of my royalties ended up coming from the UK market, with only about 20% coming from the US market. And that was a complete flip around. So if you're a Spanish speaker, can you start creating books specifically for the Mexican marketplace or the Spanish marketplace, creating your books in Spanish? Or can you do the same thing with the German language or the French language? So take a look at all of those other existing marketplaces, and if you have any connection to any of them, try and leverage that as much as you can. Those marketplaces are probably going to be a lot less competitive because they're much smaller, and that can really work in your favor. Now, if you are just getting started with low content publishing and you really want to make a good go of it this year, download my free guide, 3 Steps to Publishing Your First Low Content Book in Less Than a Day. I've left a link to that down in the description below. And if you've ever been curious about whether or not there are alternatives to publishing your book through the Kindle Direct Publishing platform, check out this video next. If you got value from this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell so that you can be notified next time one of those videos comes out. See you next week.